I woke up to voices that weren't soft or caring. They were sharp, cold. "She's not even our real mom," Cole said. His voice was close, too close. It cut through the thick fog in my head, like a cold wind slicing through a crack in the window. I kept my eyes closed. My arms felt like they were made of sand. My throat was dry, and there was a tube somewhere down it. I couldn't move, couldn't speak, but I could hear. Riley scoffed. "It would be easier if she didn't make it. The house is almost settled anyway." They didn't know I could hear them. Maybe they didn't care. Follow my story until the end and comment the city you're watching from so I can see how far my story has reached. Don't forget to subscribe for more stories that honor the quiet strength within us all. I lay still, listening to the machines beeping beside me. Each one kept time like a drum, a reminder that I was still here, still breathing. Barely. My kids. That's what I used to call them. But in that moment, I realized I wasn't theirs. Not really. "She just married Dad," Cole muttered. "She never adopted us. So, legally, she's no one." Riley sighed. "Can we go now? I can't stand this place. It smells like bleach and old food." The nurse came in then. Bless her heart. She wasn't unkind. "You should step out for a bit," she said softly. They left without a word to me. Cole's boots thumped across the floor. Riley's heels clicked sharply, like she wanted every step to be heard. The door shut. I stared at the ceiling tiles, pretending I was still out cold, pretending I hadn't just heard the two people I raised, from toddlers to adults, talk about me like I was a burden they were waiting to bury. I wanted to scream. I wanted to reach out and shake them and ask, "Who do you think made your favorite grilled cheese after school every day for 10 years? I wanted to yell, "Who drove you to practice? Who stood in for your mother when she walked away?" But I couldn't move. So instead, I lay there, silent and heavy with the weight of years. My heart beat slower, not from the drugs or the crash, but from something else, something worse. This wasn't just hurt, it was clarity. The crash had come out of nowhere, or so I thought. A quiet road near home, no rain. No distractions. But when I hit the brakes, going down that slope, and nothing happened, not even a screech, I knew something was wrong. Now I wasn't so sure it was an accident. But that's not what stayed with me. What stayed were their words, their tone, how easy it rolled off their tongues. "She's not even our real mom." I remembered how Riley used to crawl into my lap during thunderstorms. She'd tuck herself under my arm like a little rabbit, small and shaking, and I'd hum old songs until her breathing slowed. I remembered Cole hiding behind my legs when he was nervous, how he used to call me Mama Edie in that shy little voice that broke my heart every time. I didn't plan to be anyone's mother. I was already in my 40s when I met Paul. He came with 2 kids, both under 6. Their birth mother had packed up and left. No explanation, no goodbye, just gone. The first winter, I bought them gloves and tiny coats. I didn't know what I was doing, but I knew they were cold. I remember Riley hugging my legs and saying, "You smell like bread." I laughed so hard I cried. Paul was good in his own way, kind, but always working. I picked up the pieces, the baths, the homework, the fevers at midnight. I stayed up through all of it. I didn't complain, not once. I thought love was enough. Paul never pushed adoption. "They know who loves them," he'd say. I believed that. I really did. Now, lying there hooked up to machines with no voice, I wasn't so sure anymore. After Paul passed, they pulled away. Riley stopped visiting. Cole texted once in a while, but only when he needed something. At holidays, they'd show up late, eat fast, and leave early. Always polite, always smiling, never warm. At first, I thought maybe they were just busy with life. I told myself not to take it personally, but deep down, I felt it. The shift, the absence, the slow forgetting. I kept loving them anyway. I made that lemon pie Riley liked every Easter. I mailed Cole's birthday card 2 weeks early every year with a $20 bill inside, even when money was tight. I waited. I prayed. I hoped something would click, and they'd remember who I was to them, who I had been. But that hospital room proved the truth. They hadn't forgotten. They had never really seen me. I was useful. I was there. I was convenient. Until I wasn't. And now, with me unable to fight back, they showed their real faces. I blinked slowly at the ceiling light, trying to hold back tears. Crying would only hurt more. In that moment, something inside me didn't break. It shifted. Quiet, like a door softly closing. A click you only hear if you're really listening. The woman who gave everything. She was gone. And the one waking up in her place. She had a different plan. I was 43 when I married Paul Howard. He was a quiet man, sweet, but worn down by life. His wife had passed the year before, and he had 2 kids clinging to him, like anchors. Cole was 5, Riley just 3. We met at a friend's potluck. He brought a store-bought cake and forgot to take the price tag off. I didn't say a word, just smiled and cut him a slice. He asked if I wanted to grab coffee sometime. I said yes. Things moved fast, not because we were young and reckless. We weren't. But because we were lonely. And in a strange way, we understood each other's silences. The kids were quiet too, especially Riley. She clung to her brother, sucked her thumb at night, and didn't speak much for the first couple of months. I didn't push, I just kept showing up. That first winter, I bought them each a new coat. Riley picked a pink one with little stars on the sleeves. She didn't say thank you, but she wore it every day, even to bed. That was enough for me. Paul worked long hours at the hardware store, sometimes double shifts. I stayed home with the kids. I wasn't trying to be their mom at first. I just saw what they needed. Meals, structure, someone to braid Riley's hair, someone to keep up with the notes from school, stuffed into Cole's backpack. I was the one who stood in the rain holding umbrellas at soccer games. The one who rubbed vapor rub on little chests during cold season. I showed up, day in, day out. Paul once said, "You're saving us, you know." I didn't feel like a savior. I felt tired most of the time. But I loved them. We never made it official. No adoption papers. Paul said, "They know who you are. That's what matters." I believed him. I thought if I just loved them hard enough, deep enough, they'd feel it. That it would last. I remember Riley calling me Edie for the first 6 months. Then one night, after a nightmare, she climbed into my bed and whispered, "Mama Edie." She was shaking so bad. I held her all night. After that, it was just, Mama. We had good years. Hard ones too, but mostly good. Birthdays, Christmas mornings, scraped knees, report cards. I taught Cole how to ride a bike. Riley used to dance in the living room to old Motown records I played while making dinner. They grew up, and like all kids, they started pulling away. First it was wanting more time at friends' houses. Then it was locking their doors, rolling eyes, muttering under their breath. Teenagers. I kept telling myself it was normal. Paul got sick the year Riley turned 21. Colon cancer. It moved fast. Too fast. One day he was trimming the hedges. The next, he was throwing up blood in the sink. I took care of him, stayed up every night watching his chest rise and fall, just to be sure he was still breathing. When he passed, I was the one who found him in the chair out back, garden gloves still on his hands. Cole and Riley clung to me at the funeral, both of them. They cried into my shoulders like I was all they had left. I believed it then. I wanted to believe I was still their person. But once the funeral ended, something shifted. Calls became shorter, then less frequent. Holidays were hit or miss. When they did show up, it was for the formality. They didn't ask how I was doing. They didn't bring up their dad. They started asking about the house. Did Dad leave a copy of the will somewhere? Cole asked one Thanksgiving, in between bites of stuffing. Just in case anything happens, you know. Riley offered to help organize my financials, said it with a smile, like she was doing me a favor. I brushed it off, thought maybe they were just being cautious, maybe grief was making them weird. But deep down, I knew better. The warmth was gone. Still, I kept loving them. I still remembered the girl who clung to my pink robe at night, and the boy who drew me pictures with crooked hearts and too many arms. I didn't want to believe they saw me as temporary, as Less, but they did. Not right away, slowly, like a slow leak in a tire. One day, you're rolling just fine. The next, you're sitting on the side of the road, wondering what went wrong. I started looking back at things differently. All the times Riley ignored my calls. The way Cole only came around when mail from the lawyer's office showed up. The conversations that seemed light at the time, but now sounded more like inventory checks. I told myself I was being sensitive. Then I heard them in that hospital room. And I wasn't confused anymore. They didn't love me. Not really. They loved what I did for them. The meals, the roof, the feeling of being looked after. But me, I was a place they passed through. A warm spot during a cold patch. And now, with Paul gone and the estate nearly settled, they had no reason to pretend anymore. That's what hurt the most. Not that they didn't care, but that I was the only one who ever did. Laying in that hospital bed, I didn't cry. I didn't pray either. I'd done enough of that in my life. Prayers over sick kids, over late bills, over a husband whose body gave out too soon. But now, I just lay still, letting the quiet settle over me like an old blanket. I wasn't angry, not in the loud way. I was something else. Done. That was the word. I was done. They'd shown me exactly who they were. No need to argue. No point in asking why. I wasn't going to beg. I wasn't going to explain all the things I'd done for them. All the love I'd poured into 2 children who weren't mine by blood, but had been mine in every way that counted. They knew. That's the thing. They knew and didn't care. And if they didn't care, then I didn't owe them anything. That thought settled deep inside me, not with fire, but with weight. Like a stone falling into place. No more hoping. No more second guessing. No more waiting for a thank you that was never coming. 3 months before the accident, I'd walked past the den one night, carrying a laundry basket. Riley and Cole were visiting. They were in the living room, talking low, but they didn't hear me near the hall. I swear, Riley said, laughing. Just a few more years, then we split the lake house and call it good. Cole chuckled. Yeah, if she doesn't leave it to a damn dog or some charity. You know how sentimental she gets. I'm serious, she said. We should nudge her toward putting things in writing, lock it down. That was the moment. I stood there in my own hallway, holding their folded towels, realizing I was a box to check, a future asset, nothing more. That same week, I made an appointment with Micah Wren, my lawyer. He's younger than me, sharp, no fluff. I've known him for years. He helped me after Paul passed. Back then, I just wanted to keep things simple. Now I needed to protect what was mine. Micah met me at his office on a Monday morning. The waiting room smelled like coffee and printer ink. I walked in with my purse and a folder of old documents. Didn't bother with small talk. He sat across from me, tapping a pen on a yellow legal pad. What can I do for you, Edith? I pulled out the folder, will, property deed, bank account information. Then I slid over a photo. It was of Devin. Everything goes to him, I said. Micah raised an eyebrow, but didn't ask questions. Devin isn't my blood either. He's the son of a woman I worked with at the post office years ago. When his mom went into rehab, I took him in for a while. He was 8, full of questions, and always hungry. Never said no to a grilled cheese. He calls me every few weeks, still sends me postcards from wherever he's living. Boston, Austin, even Montana once. Always signs them. Love you, Mama E. He remembers, and he never asked for a thing. Micah flipped through the papers, making notes. You're sure about this? Yes. Everything. The house, car, your savings. Even the quilts, I said. The ones I made for Christmas. I want someone to have them who'll remember what they meant. Micah nodded. I'll draw up the paperwork. You'll need to sign a few forms. Do you want to notify Cole and Riley? Let them find out when it's done. We went over the details for over an hour. He asked if I wanted to include a clause about the property going to a women's shelter if Devin couldn't be located. I said yes. He added it in. When we were done, I signed everything. Micah slid the folder into a locked cabinet. You just made it legal, he said. If they try to contest, they'll lose. It's airtight. I left the office with a strange calm. Not joy, not revenge, just peace. It wasn't about punishing Cole and Riley. Not really. It was about reclaiming my life from people who thought I didn't matter. That night, I sat in my chair by the window and wrote a letter to myself. I didn't save it, didn't keep a copy, just wrote it and let it burn in the sink. It said, "You were never nothing, even if they treated you like it." I hadn't thought much about my own worth for years. I'd gotten used to being needed, then slowly ignored. To being the background, the steady hand, the grocery buyer, the quiet holiday planner. But they forgot something. I still had a voice. And even if they didn't want to hear it, the law would. So I put my affairs in order. I shredded the old will. I updated passwords. I canceled the backup key Cole kept, just in case. I made a quiet plan, and I made it stick. I wasn't going to die waiting for love that had an expiration date. The love I gave was real. The love I received wasn't. That was the truth. As plain and sharp as gravel under bare feet. And truth, real truth, changes things. After I signed the new will, I started watching more carefully. I didn't go looking for trouble, but once your eyes open, you start noticing the little things. The things you used to shrug off or explain away. Cole came by one Saturday morning. No call, no heads up. Just showed up while I was in the kitchen slicing apples for pie. "Just thought I'd check on the gutters," he said. "Make sure the house is holding up." I didn't ask for help, but I nodded. He walked around, hands in his pockets, quiet. Then I noticed him slipping mail from the box while I had my back turned. "I can sort this for you," he said, flipping through it fast. "Don't want you missing anything important." I watched him tuck a few envelopes into his coat pocket like it was nothing. That same week, Riley stopped by after work. She brought a bottle of wine and tried to act like it was a surprise visit. We sat on the porch. She kept smiling, but it didn't reach her eyes. "You ever think about selling?" she asked casually. "The market's good right now. The lake house could bring in a fortune." I shook my head. "No plans to sell." She took a sip. "Just thinking long term, you know? You ever sort out the deed stuff with Dad's name? I can help if it's confusing." I didn't answer, just looked out at the lake. The same lake where Cole caught his first fish, where Riley used to skip rocks and laugh like nothing bad could ever touch her. A few days later, Riley called to ask if she could borrow my car. "Mine's in the shop," she said. "Just for the day." I handed her the keys. She didn't even say thank you. When she brought it back, I noticed the seat was pushed all the way forward. The mirrors were off. The steering felt different, loose, like something underneath wasn't quite right. The brakes made a soft clicking sound when I backed out of the driveway the next morning. I had a pit in my stomach, but I told myself I was imagining it, that it was just age creeping in, on me and the car. Then came the accident. The memory of it still plays in pieces. I was going down Maple Ridge, steep hill, 2 sharp turns. I pressed the brake, and nothing happened. No slowing down, no squeal, just the sound of tires rolling faster than I wanted. I yanked the wheel, but I couldn't stop it. I remember the blur of trees, the crunch of metal, then black. When I woke up in the hospital, I knew that wasn't bad luck. That was a warning. After I was sent home to recover, they sent me a nurse, Charlene. She was in her late 50s, with calm hands and a quiet voice. The kind of woman who's seen things and doesn't need to say much to understand. At first, she just did her job. Helped me shower, cooked me oatmeal, managed the meds. But she also paid attention. She saw how Cole stopped by often, always finding an excuse to go through drawers or check the thermostat. She noticed Riley texting nonstop, always stepping outside to take a work call. The moment I started asking questions, one morning, Charlene came into the room while I was reading a letter Devin had sent me. Just a postcard with a picture of some desert canyon and a note, "Thinking of you, Mama E. Hope the sky's treating you kind." I must have looked lost in thought because she sat beside me and asked, "You trust them?" I didn't say anything, just folded the postcard and tucked it into my Bible. She leaned in. "If something doesn't feel right, it probably isn't. I know someone who can help. That's when she told me about Ray Saunders, private investigator, retired from the state police, did quiet work for folks who didn't want a big fuss. He's discreet, she said, and he knows how to dig without making noise. At first, I hesitated. It felt strange, like I was betraying my own. But then I remembered they weren't acting like mine, so I gave her the go-ahead. Ray showed up the next afternoon. Tall, soft-spoken, wore a navy jacket and scuffed boots. Didn't try to charm me, just asked for the facts. I told him about the breaks, the mail, the odd behavior. I handed over a list of dates and times from my own scribbled notes. He nodded and said, "We'll start small. Cameras, license plate logs, mail tracking. Let's see what shakes loose." He set up a small camera near the front porch, said it was a motion light. Nobody questioned it. He talked to a neighbor, Mrs. Alden, who'd always been friendly. Turned out, she had a Ring camera too. Ray pulled the footage. 2 days later, he came back with a laptop and a folder. "You were right," he said. The footage showed Cole going through my mailbox twice in 1 week. Riley came by after dark and spent 15 minutes near my car, popping the hood. Brakes were tampered with, Ray said. Clean cut, covered to look like wear and tear. I felt sick, but not surprised. Ray looked at me across the table and said, "We can take this as far as you want, but we need to move carefully." Charlene stood beside me, arms crossed. "We're not letting them get away with this." I nodded, because now I wasn't guessing. I had proof, and I wasn't going to let them take another thing from me. Not my home, not my peace, not my life. I've never thought of myself as helpless. Tired, sure, overlooked, more times than I can count, but never helpless. After Ray showed me the footage, something shifted in me. I wasn't just the quiet woman recovering in a hospital bed anymore. I was a woman watching everything fall into place. Cole had been sneaking mail out of my box for months. Ray had pictures, clear as day. There he was, parked across the street, in that old silver truck, waiting for the mailman to leave. He'd walk up, look around, and help himself. One afternoon, he pulled out a thick envelope from my bank, tucked it in his coat, then pretended to water my front plants. Plants I hadn't asked him to touch in years. Ray slid another photo across the table. This was taken at 6:22 p.m., 2 days before the crash. Riley, wearing sunglasses and that too big leather purse, standing by the driver's side of my car. She popped the hood, looked inside, stayed there a while, then walked away like she'd dropped off a pie. I felt sick, but not surprised. Charlene watched the footage with her arms folded tight. "You sure you want to keep this quiet?" she asked. "Yes," I said, tapping my fingers twice against the armrest. Our little code for yes. I didn't need noise. I needed results. Charlene started staying longer, said it was part of her shift, but I knew better. She didn't want me alone, not with Riley and Cole showing up more often now, asking gentle questions about finances and end-of-life preferences. Riley visited the hospital the following week, walked in wearing perfume too strong and a purse too heavy, said she'd brought me a magazine and a new toothbrush, sat in the chair beside me talking in a soft, sugary voice. I watched her closely. She leaned over my bedside table, opening the drawer with one hand while flipping through the magazine with the other. "You keeping your bank info in here, Mom?" she said lightly. "You know it's not safe." She reached in like she belonged there. Charlene came in just then, pushing a cart. Riley straightened up quick, just checking to make sure she has what she needs, Riley said with a smile. Charlene nodded, but didn't smile back. After Riley left, I looked at Charlene and dragged my finger across my palm. Our signal, forget Ray. She nodded once. The next day, Ray arrived with a manila folder and a quiet voice. "Brakes were cut," he said. "Not worn, not rusted. Clean slice. Whoever did it used a tool and knew what they were doing." He sat beside my bed, eyes steady. "They wanted it to look like a regular failure, but it wasn't. You're lucky it didn't kill you." I blinked twice. Our code for "I understand." "Edith," he said slowly, "this isn't just about money anymore. This is criminal. Elder endangerment, Financial manipulation, attempted harm. I stared at the ceiling. I didn't cry. I didn't speak. I blinked again. Ray laid a document on the tray beside me. Charlene pulled up a chair and placed a pen in my hand. My fingers shook, but I managed to scribble a signature. It wasn't pretty, but it was enough. With that one signature, the paper trail began. Micah would file the charges quietly. If Riley or Cole tried to touch my accounts or assets again, it would trigger a legal alert. They'd be flagged, and every move would be documented. Ray started coming every other day after that. He brought photos, timelines, records. One showed Cole logging into public Wi-Fi from the hospital waiting room, pulling up a file labeled Living Will Template. He printed out Riley's search history from her home IP address. Things like how to claim estate without legal adoption and can stepchildren contest wills. They weren't just greedy, they were planning. And I wasn't just lying in a bed anymore, I was preparing. Charlene helped me practice signing my name again. Not for show, but for power. Ray showed me how to trace over documents with my finger so I'd know where to place my initials. Every night before bed, Charlene would double-check the lock on the hospital room door. Ray gave her a burner phone, one number saved. He looked at her once and said, "If anyone else shows up here and asks for her files, stall. Call me first." She nodded like she'd already planned to. The next time Cole visited, he brought flowers and a forced smile, talked about how the lawn needed trimming, and maybe he could help with some of my insurance paperwork. He stood too close to my bed, glancing at the IVs and monitors like he was measuring how long I had left. I didn't move. I didn't blink. I counted the freckles on his arm just to stay calm. When he left, Charlene reached under the bed and pulled out a tiny black recorder. She clicked it off and slipped it into her pocket. "You did great," she whispered. I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was watching, recording, documenting. They thought I was too weak to notice, too sick to resist, too tired to fight back. But the truth was, I'd never been more awake. I wasn't alone either. I had Charlene, who stayed later than she was paid for. I had Ray, who kept every photo in neat folders and never once asked why I didn't want to press yet. And I had Micah, ready to file everything with the court the second I gave the word. They thought I was out of moves. They were wrong. They came dressed like it was already over. Cole wore a black polo shirt and shiny shoes he probably hadn't cleaned since Paul's funeral. Riley had on a blouse that looked expensive but wrinkled, like she pulled it out of a laundry basket on the way in. They walked into the hospital like they were there to collect something, not to say goodbye, not to grieve, just to sign and take. I wasn't there. Charlene had wheeled me out the night before. Micah arranged it, a private discharge with outside orders and a quiet exit. No fuss, no alert. By the time they arrived, I was already sitting in a rented cabin 3 towns away, wrapped in a quilt with my feet up. A young nurse named Dana was at the front desk when they came in. She was maybe 23, polite but sharp, didn't smile much. Riley stepped forward, soft-voiced. "We're here about Edith Howard, room 204. We need to speak to someone about next steps, paperwork, her personal items." Dana typed something on her screen, paused, then said, "She was discharged last night. Arrangements were handled privately." Cole frowned. "By who?" Dana didn't flinch. "Her attorney sent instructions. Everything's been transferred." Riley's voice changed slightly, the sugar starting to melt off. "We're her children." Dana glanced at the chart. "No next of kin is listed." She reached under the desk and handed them a large manila envelope. "This was left for you. That's all I was told to give." They stepped aside to a bench near the hallway. Riley opened the envelope like it might explode. Inside was a single letter, printed in black ink, folded neatly. Cole read aloud, "I raised you when no one else would, but I don't owe you anything. I may have loved you, but I no longer trust you." There was no signature, no warmth, just truth. Riley's jaw clenched. Cole looked around the hallway like someone was playing a joke. "She's messing with us," he muttered. This is ridiculous. She must have done this after the accident," Riley said. shoving the letter back in the envelope. She's confused. Maybe she wasn't in her right mind. Cole laughed under his breath, confused enough to call a lawyer, change the will, and disappear. They didn't notice the small black device under the bench, Ray's recorder, planted the night before. Riley's voice dropped. "You told me it would be fine," she snapped. "You said she wouldn't remember anything." "She wasn't supposed to be driving that day," Cole hissed. "And I didn't tell you to check the damn brakes." "You didn't stop me, either," she fired back. "You said if the car failed on its own, well, accidents happen." He leaned in close. "Don't say that here. It's already said." That's when Dana walked by, pushing a supply cart. They fell quiet. But the recorder didn't. Ray picked up the device 2 hours later and handed it to Micah that evening. The next stop for Cole and Riley was the lake house. They must have driven straight from the hospital, still thinking they had time to fix this, to spin a story, to get in before anything was made official. They pulled into the gravel driveway like they always had, fast, like they belonged. But the house didn't welcome them. The front gate was chained shut with a heavy lock. On the fence was a sign, "Private property, under legal review. All inquiries." Wren and Associates Cole tried the gate anyway, yanked it once, then twice. "It's locked," he said, staring at it like it might open out of guilt. Riley paced by the mailbox. "This doesn't make sense. She can't do this. She's not what?" Cole snapped. "She's not supposed to be smart enough for this," Riley blurted. "She barely used online banking until last year." "Well, guess what?" Cole said. "She played us." They stood there for a while, silent, madam ashamed, not because of what they did, because they got caught. Then a black SUV pulled into the driveway behind them. A man in a pressed gray suit stepped out, clipboard in hand. "Micah Wren," he said simply. "I'm acting on behalf of Edith Howard." Neither of them spoke. "This property is no longer within your legal access or interest," he continued. "Do not attempt to enter. Any trespassing will be reported." He handed them each an envelope, same weight, same color. Riley opened hers quickly, skimming the contents. Her face changed. "You never saw me as family, so don't expect family now. You stood beside me like strangers when I needed you most. Now that's what you are." She tore the letter in half and tossed it toward the ground. Micah didn't blink. "Your names were removed from all accounts and documents. The house now belongs to a new trustee. Further inquiries can be directed to my office." He got back in the SUV and drove away. Cole and Riley were left standing on the gravel, empty-handed. They didn't just lose access. They lost the story they told themselves, that they'd be the ones to close the chapter, that I'd be gone, and they'd take what was left without a second thought. They were wrong. Because I wasn't done, not even close. They showed up with bags in the trunk, big ones, like they were moving in. Cole had a duffel bag slung over his shoulder, and Riley carried a tote with what looked like files and a laptop. They came ready to settle in, like the house was already theirs. But they didn't get past the front steps. The property manager, a man named Walter Dean, was already waiting when they pulled into the driveway. Older man, square jaw, clipboard in hand, didn't say much, just stood near the edge of the porch like a bouncer at a bar. Cole stepped out of the car first. "What's going on?" "We're here to check on the house. It's ours now." Walter didn't flinch. "No, it's not." Riley crossed her arms. "We're family." He held out 2 envelopes. "I was instructed to hand these to you. Legally, this property does not belong to either of you. You're not on the deed. You're not listed as heirs. You're not allowed inside." Cole laughed once, sharp and fake. "You've got to be kidding." Walter didn't laugh back. He just nodded toward the mailbox. "If you'd like to read it here, go ahead. I'm not stopping you." They tore open the envelopes, right there on the gravel. This time, the message was simple. "You never once called me Mom when no one else was listening, so don't call now." Riley's mouth fell open. She didn't say a word, just stared at the paper like it had slapped her. Cole crumpled his up and shoved it in his pocket. Across the street, the neighbors had come out. not all at once, but in ones and twos. Old Mr. Harlan, next door, was watering his porch plants. Even though it hadn't rained in days, I saw two women on the opposite porch, pretending to talk, but clearly watching. Cole looked around and noticed them too. "You all got nothing better to do?" he shouted. That didn't help his case. Riley stormed toward the back gate. "We'll just go in through the rear. There's no cameras back there." Walter stepped forward. "Yes, there are." She stopped in her tracks. Ray had installed them himself. A full sweep. Porch, side yard, even the back shed. All under legal order. All with signs posted. Cole kicked at the gravel, paced a few steps, then turned on Riley. "You said she was losing it. You said she wouldn't have the guts." Riley snapped back. "Well, you said she'd die before she changed anything." They didn't notice Walter's body cam was on. Didn't see the blinking red light on the edge of the fence post. They had no clue their argument was being recorded. Again. Cole raised his voice. "She was supposed to leave us the house. She raised us." "No," Riley said coldly. "She raised you. I always knew I was just extra." Cole blinked, like he didn't expect that. Riley turned away and muttered, "We should have done this sooner. You kept dragging your feet." "Don't blame me," Cole said. "You're the one who said the brakes thing wasn't a big deal." She stepped toward him, finger in his face. "I said don't touch the car. I never said cut the line." "You're the one who borrowed it last," he fired back. "You were the last one under the hood." Neighbors could hear every word. One of them was already on the phone. That night, Ray handed the footage to the local police. Micah delivered a full report. Timeline, voice recordings, the brake line report, hospital footage, signed documents, even the printed texts Riley sent to Cole that said, "She won't last much longer. Just hold tight." It didn't take long for the story to start spreading. Not national news, but local enough to catch attention. The kind of story people whispered about over coffee. "Did you hear about that woman with the lake house? Her stepkids tried to take everything. They say it wasn't even an accident." I stayed quiet. I didn't need to defend myself. The truth was already moving. Charlene called me that evening. "They tried to come back," she said. "Didn't get past the gate. Neighbors watched the whole thing." I asked if anyone had stepped in. "No one had to," she said. "They embarrassed themselves just fine." Cole and Riley never returned a second time. They didn't know what to do next. They'd spent so long believing I'd roll over, hand them the keys, and vanish. They didn't expect resistance. They certainly didn't expect witnesses. That night, I sat on the porch of my little cabin, wrapped in the same quilt I used to keep on the back of the lake house couch. The stars were out, quiet and distant. I felt something I hadn't in a long time. Stillness. Not the kind that comes from giving up. The kind that comes from reclaiming what's yours. They thought they'd closed the book on me, but I wasn't a footnote. I was the one holding the pen now. These days, I live in a quiet co-op, just outside Boone, North Carolina. It's not fancy, just a one-bedroom with a little porch and a chair that creaks when I rock back and forth. The rent's affordable, and the neighbors don't ask too many questions. That's what I wanted. Peace, not pity. The women here are strong in ways you don't notice at first. They smile a lot, bring extra pie to the potluck, and remember birthdays. But behind their eyes, there's a history, a kind of knowing. We've all lived through something. Some gave up everything for family that never came back. Some walked out with nothing but a suitcase and a quiet goodbye. Nobody here judges how long it took you to leave. We just say, "You made it. You're here now." My godson Devin visits twice a month. He calls more than that, but when he drives up, he always brings something useful. A bag of groceries, a new notepad, once even a can opener because he thought mine looked tired. I never had to ask him. He just shows up, kind, steady, like family is supposed to. He took the lake house and turned it into something better. Not a museum of my old life. Not a vacation spot. He named it the Howard Retreat. I didn't know until I saw the wooden sign with my last name carved clean across the top. I almost cried when I saw it, but I held it in. Tears are for things that still hurt. This didn't. It's a place now for women who've been left behind, stepped on, overlooked. Women who gave too much to people who didn't give back. They come from all over. Some stay a week, some longer. They help in the garden, write letters they'll never send, and sit around a fire most nights, just talking. Devin handles everything: paperwork, volunteers, funding. I just send cards when someone moves on, slips a note in the mail that says, "You matter," even if they made you feel like you didn't. A few weeks back, they held a press conference outside the house. Nothing fancy, just a small group of reporters, a borrowed microphone, and a few folding chairs. Devin stood at the front with a folder in one hand, and his voice steady. This home was built by a woman who gave everything to children who gave nothing back. Now it belongs to women finding their way forward. He didn't mention names. He didn't have to. The timing was almost poetic. That same week, Cole and Riley were arrested. The charges: attempted financial fraud, elder endangerment, tampering with a vehicle. You name it. They tried to point fingers at each other, of course, claimed confusion, misunderstanding, poor judgment. But the evidence was clear. Ray had made sure of that. I didn't show up to watch them get cuffed. I didn't need to. Ray sent me the photos. They both looked stunned, like life had played them a hand they didn't see coming. Cole was picked up outside a coffee shop, wearing sunglasses like he thought they'd hide him from the law. Riley was taken in at her office. She had on red lipstick and a look that said she still believed this wasn't happening. It was. By then, the story had started to spread. Local outlets picked it up. A few podcasts even reached out to Devin. He declined, said it wasn't about going viral. It was about telling the truth, a truth too many women carry but rarely speak out loud, that they gave their best years to people who didn't say thank you. That love, when it's one-sided, doesn't feel like love. It feels like duty, like being slowly erased. I sit by the window most mornings, sipping tea from the same cup I've had since the 90s, the one with the small chip on the handle. It fits my hand just right. The window faces east, and if the light hits right, I can almost see the lake in my mind, the old porch, the garden that still blooms with flowers I planted long ago. They're still there. Devin sends pictures sometimes. The rose bush grew back stronger than ever. I guess roots, once deep enough, don't die easy. Sometimes I wonder what Cole and Riley think about now, if they sit in those cells remembering the meals I cooked, the rides to school, the way I used to hum while folding their laundry, or if they're too busy blaming each other. Either way, it's not my burden to carry anymore. I let that go. You know, I used to think silence was strength, that if I just kept showing up, kept loving hard enough, things would turn around. But silence can also be permission. A green light to people who want to take without giving back. It's not weakness to say enough. It's wisdom. So now I spend my days in peace, not hiding, just living. And I hope that maybe, just maybe, some other woman hears this story and realizes she can still rewrite hers. It's not too late. You're not too old. You're not too soft. You're not too used up. You're just in the middle of your second beginning. Let me leave you with this. How many women have given all their love to people who only saw their value in paperwork? How many stayed silent, thinking love would be enough? And how many more need to hear, it's never too late to take your life back? If this story made you feel something, if it reminded you of your worth, your strength, or your voice, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Leave a comment below. I'd love to hear your thoughts.